Hi everyone, Martin here from martinsmayhem.co.uk. I hope you're all well. Today we are going to be creating this card that you see here. It's a little bit dusty actually. Let's give it a quick blow. He says, very dusty. You can tell I've had it made a while. It's created using the Botanical leaf stamp set, which I'm using this kind of leaf imagery here. But I'm not going to use the sentiment. I'm going to choose one from the Sentimental Park stamp set, and I'm just going to do Happy Birthday because it's a good generic one to have in the backlog of cards should you need it. So should we get started? So I am going to bring in my trimmer to start with. Let's push this up into the corner. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer. Turn it this way even. So I'm going to cut a top folding card at 10.5 centimetres, like so. Now this is very vanilla thick cardstock. I think the thick cardstock's a lot better for our card bases. Already losing my voice. Excuse me, let me take a drink. So anyway, I've cut it. I'm going to score now. So I'm going to score at 14.8 and just a little bit extra, just so it's roughly halfway. Fold that over and burnish that score line. Didn't think I had a bone folder to hand then, but I do now. And then using the leftover bit, I'm going to cut a matte layer just a centimetre smaller, so 13.8. I'm not too fussed about the odd 0.5 mil by 9.5. So pop that up, and that's our matte layer, which we are going to use primarily. So card base can go away because we don't really need that right now. Should we do some ink blending first? Shall we? He says, okay, we'll start with the ink blending. So I've got the layering dioramas, and what I've done is I've already created myself some templates that you'll see here. So I've just cut a piece of cardstock and I've die cutted the shapes out that I'm going to use. All right, so these are going to be used as templates, as you'll see, for some ink blending. So I'm just going to grab a post-it note. Let's just get rid of that one. Actually, no, we'll use that one. It won't be wasteful. So I'm just going to use the post-it note just to hold it in place. And it also helps mask off any bits that are on show. So we're going to start with our largest one, which is the third biggest in the set. And our smallest one that we're going to be using is actually the smallest. All right. So our ink blending is going to be done with Petal Pink, which is remaining as one of our colours, and so is Cajun Craze, which we're going to use for our smaller one. So I'm going to grab my Petal Pink. Now on the example, I think I had a dirty brush because it's very pink, whereas Petal Pink's more peachy. But nevertheless still beautiful. So I'm just going to ink that up, and I'm just going to start blending that colour onto our card, like so. Now I know it doesn't look like much, but it's going on. You're just going to have to keep working it like so. You want to try and get it as even as possible, which is the challenging part. I'm just gonna lift this bit up because I don't want it actually stuck to my mat. And take ink blend over like so. Now I'm always going to start off onto the side of my mat or my template that I've created, and the reason for that is the first bit of ink that you kind of pick up is always going to be really intense, so I like to just brush that bit off and then work with it. So if I gently lift this bit up we can see the shapes on there, which is fab. So I know it might not look like much has changed colour wise, but you can see once lifting it, a lot has. So let's take that one off, pop that back in the middle. We'll use these post-it notes again, because you know, I'm so high tech. And then we'll bring in our smaller mask with our Cajun Craze. I love the colour Cajun Craze, and I think it's so underused. I don't need these anymore, so they can go. It's so underused, and I don't really know why, because it's such a beautiful colour. So I'm going to now bring in the other mat, and I'm just going to line it up to roughly where I want it. You can always create like a hinge like we just did with these post-it notes, so you can roughly see where it's going to fall. But because I've already got the card, I kind of know where it's going to be. So let's move that blender brush out of the way. It's stuck down again. So there is going to be a slight difference in colour for where it overlaps to where it doesn't. Don't worry about that. You're not really going to notice it. So again, starting off and going on, like so. Now you can make this colour as intense and as dark as you want. The thing with ink blending is you can make it quite translucent almost, which is really, really pretty. But equally, with the Cajun, it's a very rich colour. And because I like that about it, I want to get the most out of that intense colour. So I do want it quite strong. Like so. So again, if I did just want to check, I can just lift this corner up and have a look, and you can see there's a difference in the colour, but it's not that big of a deal, really. So I'm happy with that. So let's take that off. And now these masks can be used again, so don't throw them away. This is my third or fourth time using them, and I'm just going to keep them in the wallet where I keep my dies. So it's super easy. And put them to one side. So there we have that. We are going to use this extra piece of Very Vanilla we had left over, and we're going to create this moon crescent shape. So a product I am very sad to see go is our layering circle dies. So if you love our circle dies and you haven't got them yet, make sure you grab them, because I use these on pretty much every single card, and you can't say that very, very, very often, can you? So I'm going to be using the second biggest and fifth biggest. Okay, I know that's not very accurate in measurements. I don't actually know how they size out. I think I did a Stampin' Society tutorial ages ago where I did actually work out the measurements. So I might have to fish that out. So now I'm grabbing Sahara Sand. Sahara Sand is leaving us, which I'm really sad about. I'm just going to move that out of the scene. Because it's good for no-line watercolouring, which if you haven't checked out my recent video in relation to that, make sure you go do, because it's very popular by everybody who's seen it, which is so sweet. But it's also such a nice neutral colour when you kind of going for these boho vibes, which I think this card really encapsulates. So I've inked, or I've added the ink to my blending brush, and again, these blending brushes are fabulous. And I'm just going to work off and on to the card, like so. Ink it up and add it on. Now I'm working from outside in, and the reason for that is I want this little ombre effect. So I want it darker on my moon shape than the other side. So I'm just gonna lay the ink down Now you might be like, why don't you just use Sahara Sand cardstock? And you can. I just really like the texture or the mottling you can achieve sometimes from ink blending. Like, I know everybody likes it to be smooth and perfect, but sometimes there's perfection in the imperfection. So I like to do it in a circular motion, but I did just go up and down a little bit. So as long as I can get the big one, which I can, we are good to go. Yeah, that's enough. So you don't need a lot for this, and we can use the rest of this for our stamping later. In fact, let's just bring in our trimmer to trim that down. So we've got this bit for later. He says, I've just put that somewhere that I know I'm going to lose it. So that's our ink blending done. I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine. Now, I use my big one. There's benefits to having the small one, yes. However, I craft a lot. So I'm going to use the big one. So I'm going to lay down the big one first, so I know roughly where I want it. And then I'm going to bring in the small one. Now I'm going to cut the small one first. And you'll see why, because it's a little bit delicate. I'm going to run that through. And run that back. Like so. So maybe you can find a use for this circle. Who knows? You can create another card. But I'm going to bring in my other circle now, and I'm just going to line that up. And I'm going to line it up so it's roughly even. Now, you can cut it so the circles overlap a little bit. However, I don't find that makes a nice crescent moon, or it's too round. So I like to just give myself a little bit extra that I can just cut off. So there's that. I'm gonna make my sandwich like so and run that through. And like so, you have the crescent moon shape. Now, if you like the full circle, keep that in, but I am just gonna chop it off a little bit. Let's stick that on the floor because my desk isn't big enough. He says can't find in his scissors. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a point where I'm happy with it, and I'm just gonna cut into that like so. And then this bit. So I'm just going to cut into the circle, and then, so on this one, I've got a bit more than I did before. And actually, I haven't cut this bit quite as I like. It's not quite as smooth. So let's just cut in and around like so. It's fine. Am I happy with this bit? A little bit of a bobbly end, so let's just cut that down. What would be easier is if I made a crescent moon die for me just to cut out. Wonderful. So there you have that shape. If you wanted to go in now and add a little bit of shadowing at any point to this bit, you can do so like so. Just add a little bit down here, say. But what I would do is avoid these bits because they are quite delicate because of how skinny they go. So this is going to be popped up onto our layer like so, and you could have it straight on like that. However, I'm just going to tilt it a little bit more just for added interest. So let's grab some mini dimensionals. He says should have some here. I have. So I'm going to use minis because they're teeny tiny, so they can fit quite close to the ends. He says he puts it in the right spot without interfering with that. But what you can do as well is just use the edge of your dimensionals, just create little strips like so, and then you can use those little bits, just cut that bit off, to add into the corners as close as you can, just so these have some adhesion down as well. It's not necessary, but at least you know it's going to be a lot more secure by you doing it. So let's take the backs off of these. It says throwing them to one side. My desk is such a mess. I planned for this card, and I got everything ready last weekend, so I'm actually recording this on Saturday. Should be going out on Saturday. But I planned to do it after work one evening, or record the video after work one evening, and I just haven't had chance. So I'm recording it now, but everything's being prepared on my desk, ready to go. So I'm just gonna apply a little bit of pressure so that's down. Then what am I gonna do next? Let's stamp our leaf image from the stamp set, what's it called, Botanical Layers. So I brought this stamp set right at the very beginning of the catalogue, and I've only just used it, and I'm so annoyed at myself, but because it's such a pretty stamp set and I just haven't had time, I fell into that trap of buying too much. Like, I know that's a nice problem to have, but it's a problem I don't want. I want to use my bits and pieces, but what I'm grateful for is the fact that it's carrying over. That is a godsend. So I've inked up my image in Evening Evergreen, which is going to be leaving us soon, which I'm so sad about, and I'm going to stamp that down like so. I hope I'm still in shot. I am. And then I'm just going to pop that to one side, and then you're going to want to fussy cut this out. Now, I know some people don't like fussy cutting. I love it, so I will sit there, I will stamp my images out, and I'll sit in front of a TV fussy cutting them out. But I'm not going to sit here and fussy cut it all, but what I will say is, when you've got an image that you've stamped out, just roughly cut it out like so. So you've got a lot less excess around. It doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be curly whirly. Just give yourself enough to play with, like so. So then I'll just have lots of bits like this, and then I'll go in with the finer details. And remember, always move your cardstock, not your scissors. Yeah, so use this hand stationary like so. Get it butted into that corner and cut round like so, and using this hand to pivot the paper. Okay, as it's really boring to watch me fussy cut, I'm gonna put that to one side. I can cut that bit out later. And here's one I done earlier. So one thing that frustrates me when I look at cards and you've got fussy cut elements like this is elements you can't get to. Okay, so like this here, there's no entry point into this area, and while you can leave it, and it could just be me being pernicative, I don't like it. So what I do is I always look for an entry point. So this is a really small point where I can cut into the detail. So as you can see here, I've cut in where that leaf is, and I've cut up and into that space, but quite easily that's going to become invisible. And as you can see on this card, I can easily hide that area with my sentiment. All right, I hope that makes sense. And I hope you guys don't think I'm being far too pernicative. So there's that. Next, we're going to grab our Simply Elegant twine thread. Simply Elegant thread. I don't remember what it's called. But I'm going to grab it. I'm going to I like the natural curve in it, so try to keep that. I know some people don't. And I'm just going to wrap it around my fingers. So I use 4 fingers, wrap it around a couple of times, like so. I want it a little bit bigger. So I'll just go around twice more. So I've gone around a total of 6 times, and that might be too much. As I said, it's been a while since I actually did make this card. But I've got that there, like so. And you're going to see it's going to go a little bit messy, but we can mess around with it until we're happy. So wrapping it around like so. I don't want it perfect. I want it a little bit wavy. I don't want it quite so wavy that it's trying to go to currently. So let's just mould it a little bit, like so. And that's fine because that's going to sit behind our element like so. I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit. Some elements are wanting to go quite finicky. That's too much. Let's take off a length. Let's just make it slightly bigger. Come on, work with me. Here. There we go. It's looking better, isn't it? Let's just play with it a little bit. Try to make it work for your card and your design. If it's not perfect, it doesn't have to be. So it's going to sit there like so. He says, so it's going to sit on the card like that, and then this element's going to sit over the top of it because that's our centerpiece, like that. So let's just make it a little bit bigger. Again, and then like so. That's better. Now don't move. I'm going to grab a glue dot. Now I've lost my take a pic tool. If anybody finds it, please let me know where it is because I've lost it. But I'm going to grab a glue dot and just pop that down there, and that's just going to hold part of it in place like so, just while I mess around. And then we're going to use this element with some dimensionals on the back just to secure the rest with the dimensionals. So let's pop some more mini dimensionals on here. Now, some of these you are going to have to go back into just to apply a second dimensional because we've already got 1 dimension in height from our crescent shape. So I need, that one's fine. So if I pop that there, I know that one's going to hit. This one is going to be, I need something more. That's fine. Let's pop one on here as well. Rather safe than sorry, because the last thing you want to do is send it out and it fall apart. So let's take the backs off. Like so. And pop that down like so. So then it has somewhere to sit. So we're almost creating like a little shape with that, or it's gonna, that's creating like an embellishment to the crescent moon. So this is my favorite part. So you guys asked a lot of questions about this gold ink last time. I shared a video and it's my favorite gold ink is Winsor Newton ink. I'll link to it in the description. It's not an affiliated link. I'm not being pushed to promote this product. It's just a product that I use as an art student. I had left over, and you know what? it works great. So I'm going to use it for card making. I'm going to move my actual card out of the way though, because this stuff does go everywhere. So I've got an old water painter that I use for this, just because I use my new ones for actual watercolouring, and I use these now for ink splatter. So you can see just from that how pigmented it is, and I'm just going to give it a little flick. Now I have a habit of going too far with my ink splatter, so I'm just going to stop there. And the best bit is it doesn't dry quick if it's covered, so make sure you cover it up and that will stay quite wet. So screw that up. Now I love this because it is so quick. I'm just gonna have another drink because I'm talking far too much. It does dry really quickly, which is fabulous because we all know things take time. But I am just going to shift this over and out of the way because we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I've got a scrap piece of Occasion Craze here. I have my Happy Birthday sentiment. Feel free to swap it out for any others that you might have. I have my embossing buddy from the Editions embossing toolkit. And I have my Versamark ink pad. So I'm just going to powder up my card. I'm going to ink up my sentiment like so, and I'm going to stamp that down like that. Now I know that cardstock's not straight. I'm going to cut it so it is straight, so it'll all be okay. I have... Now did I actually switch? I was scared then I didn't switch the extension lead on, so we might not have had any heat tool, but we do. So I'm going to sprinkle over white embossing powder. Yes, I know it's white. Well, we don't do cream embossing powder and Stampin' Up. We used to, we don't anymore. Bring it back, I say. So yeah, white embossing powder, I'm going to heat set that. And it's as quick as that. Then I'm going to bring in my trimmer, like so, and I'm going to cut this down. So I'm going to line it up, or the bottom width of the sentiment, with the inner running blade, like so. Now I do this every single time, so you guys should know what I'm talking about, but if you're new here, you're not going to know. So I might as well just repeat myself. So I'm just going to line the top of the word up with the inside of the running blade and that edge from where I'm sat, so I know as long as it looks straight to me, it's going to cut straight. And there you go. It's that simple. So I never stress about how to cut down a sentiment because I know I can cut it straight using that. Unless, of course, the sentiment's wibbly wobbly, which, yeah, you got no chance on. So I'm just going to snip off the edges. You could do this with your trimmer if you wanted. I just find it's quicker to knot. And then that's going to sit over like so, okay? So I'm just going to pop a dimensional. I think I'm going to have to cut this one in half though. He says, is this the right side? Yeah. So pop a dimensional on the back. Am I going to have to cut it in half? No, we're all good. I might actually put two, just so it's really secure. Side by side. And two. And you're going to create like a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Swimmers jump off of them. Diving board. So it's secure here, but it is just flapping in the wind here. But it's fine to do so. I have no issues. This card's fine. And I think if you were to put dimensionals underneath, it wouldn't look very nice. So, there's that. So I don't know why I keep saying so weird, but hey ho. I'm bringing in my sequins for everything fancy. I love these. I'm very disappointed that they're not staying. Stampin' Up, what were you thinking? But they're not, so they're going. So if you haven't got them, you get all these sequins that you see here in 3 different colours in 1 pack. I've brought 2 extra packs because I never want to run out of these because they're that pretty. And I'm just going to pop down some adhesive in the positions that are kind of already done on my previous card. So I'm only going to be using the gold sequins and the pearls. Now I love mixing pearls and the sequins together. I was never one for mixing types of embellishment, but you know what, it's super pretty, so why wouldn't I? It says, this is why I need to find my take a pic tool. What have I done with it? I'm so frustrated because I have one, I love it, and I've misplaced it. So pop that down. Put it back into place. Press it down. There's another pearl. Just work. Put that there, press it down. Little sequins of gold ones. One there. Grab another one to go there. And then I'm just going to flip this round because there's a pearl just here. Pop a pearl there. We've got another one up here, and then another pearl here, and another little sequin there. So once the glue's on, it makes my life a little bit easier. I need some more pearls though. Where does it say pearl? There. I don't know why I'm guessing the card's right there, but I'm not quite looking where I'm putting it. That's there. Bend that down. And I need another pearl. Can anybody see a pearl in there? No. There's one there. Let's pop that down. And there. Oh. Sticky fingers. Put that back on. Just these little gold sequins. Like so. So guys, this is using a lot of retiring product that there is only a few days left. So the new catalogue, which if you're one of my customers would have received it by now, in the post. So if you are wanting any products that are retiring and get it before, well, your last day is May 1st, and that's if a product hasn't sold out. Okay. So it's up to you. So there's that. Now we just need to attach that to our card base, which I'm going to bring in here. Flip this round. Grab my big dimensionals, which I've got some here. In fact, these are nearly finished, so let's just use these ends. I can. Let's pop that there, like so. Pop pop this one here, like so. Big enough to fit. Yep. And then let's grab this one. Got an extra sneaky dimensional there. Pop that on there. Just pop a couple in the middle. For stability, pop the back off. Back. Like so. And then pop that onto our card base, the right way up, ideally, Martin. So I'd like to align the two corners, drop down the third and then the fourth, and place that down. And now I'm going to stand up and just zoom in so you can see the finished cards a little bit better. But there you have it. So that did not feel like 36 minutes in order to make that card, but it took that long, so I'm sorry if you waited until the very end. I hope you enjoyed today's card. If you have any questions about Stampin' Up or kind of shopping for their products, if you're in the UK, Ireland, Netherlands, Germany, France and Austria, just checking I haven't forgotten anyone. Nope. Please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help with any questions. A list of the products used will also be available below with links to my UK shop. However, you can change the shopping preference in the top right corner. I'll see you guys later. Bye.